Hey everyone, this is Steve coming at you with my day 5, it's a 5, video of my August challenge. This is actually my 3rd video I've made today. I've got a backpacking trip that I'm going to be doing, and so I wanted to make all my videos today for the days I'd be gone for that so that I could still make one. So with that, one of my big goals for this video is to try to keep it within 5 minutes, so we'll see if that happens. I'm continuing kind of on this idea of anxiety and just how that's something very prevalent a lot of people experience. And so kind of what are some of the things that the Bible has to say about it? And then today I'm going to talk about something that I don't know if it's so much connected to like a specific scripture, but just kind of an idea that I have that I imagine captures many biblical elements, but yeah, it's not necessarily based on a specific scripture. So kind of keep that in mind and do with it what you will as I describe that. But just as a real quick recap, I talked about the first thing kind of being we see like God instructing us in some way to like cast our cares on him or give him our anxiety or come to him, you know, those who are weary and burdened, so that he can give us rest. And so in some way we have to come to him with our worries and lay those things down at his feet. And if we don't do that, I think if we're just like, again, having those things go through our mind, fixating on them, white knuckling it, it's just, we're not going to get help, you know, like we're not allowing him to do what only he can do. And then kind of second was this idea of gratitude. We see in one of the verses it says when you present your requests to God to do it with thanksgiving in your heart, or with thanksgiving. And so yeah, like we see that as like a principle, and this idea of like gratitude, and really specifically with that, this idea I shared of focusing on God and his character and who he is, and remembering that and his goodness and how that's going to enter into your situation you're experiencing, and then remembering and being thankful for like what he's done in your life already. You know, he's, at least for me, like carried me through so many hardships and trials, and I've seen evidence of him. I've seen evidence of him in other people's lives. And then even just like the cross, like if we just remember that and what he did on the cross and what that means again about his character and who he is, it makes it a lot easier to believe that I can trust him with whatever it is I'm going through. And so kind of last piece, and again, this is more of maybe like a Steve thought, if you will, is when you're experiencing anxiety and you notice that, maybe try, see if this works and helps. I think for me it does, praying for someone else. And so maybe specifically when you're experiencing anxiety and whatever you're anxious about, like you think about someone else, like going through the same thing, try praying for them. Try kind of expanding your worldview a little bit. And while maybe this thing is going on with you, and not to say it's not important, but kind of recognizing and remembering that other people are facing this too. And in some ways it could be an invitation for us to get to kind of enter into that suffering with them. The word compassion, when you break it down, the roots, like the C-O-M, calm, means with, like in the word community, like together. And then and the word passion means suffering. And so it literally means like suffer with is what it means. And so in some fashion, I do think the trials we go through, there's an opportunity to actually get to connect more with others. And in some ways that's powerful. And there's times where I've wondered if I hadn't experienced things myself, if I'd be able to connect and care as much for others as I've been able to at times, hopefully. And so that's just kind of one thought. And to go with that, I have a story of a friend, and she's just got a beautiful heart. I was struggling with insomnia pretty bad, and every once in a while still kind of do, but for the most part it's better. And she also struggled with that much longer than me. And she shared with me one time at community group, she said, hey, like, I just want you to know, Steve, I'm praying for you when I can't sleep. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, like at night when I can't sleep, I start to think about the other people who've shared that they can't sleep, and I pray for them. And I think, well, even if I can't sleep, maybe I can pray for them and help them while they're not sleeping. And I just can't imagine, like, I know, at least for me, like when I'm anxious, that tends to produce these negative feelings when I focus on it. I'm like, man, like poor me, like this sucks. Like I'm so angry. And those are all like emotions that if I'm being honest, like I'd rather not like have, you know? And I think in some ways, we kind of get to choose how much we like, produce those emotions, because on the flip side, like she chose to use that as an opportunity, as a cue almost, like to think, okay, like I'm going to pray for others. And that would produce feelings, I imagine, of compassion, you know, of like care, of love, these like pretty positive emotions, and ones I feel like I'm trying to cultivate in my life. And so you kind of have this example of the way I was doing it, which was producing these really like negative emotions that don't produce life, or this more positive mindset and emotions that do produce life. And so I tried it. I'd like pray for people, and I'm not saying it was perfect, but I think it did start to do a change in my heart in that instance. And so I'd encourage you, whether it's you praying for someone who has something similar going on, or it just is a cue to remind you to pray for someone who maybe you're committed to praying for, try it and see what happens. Again, there's not a specific verse I'm tying this to, so do with it what you will. But I do think in many ways there's some biblical elements, principles, or even potentially examples we see in people's lives when they're going through hardship. And I'm thinking of Jesus in the garden, and he chooses to pray for his disciples. So yeah. Well, hey, with that, I hope in some way that this has been a blessing, and maybe gives you some, at least scripture to go to when you're dealing with anxiety, or maybe some just kind of different thoughts on what that might look like, to try different things as you're going through it. Yeah, you're always more than welcome to message me. I guess leave a comment here on YouTube. Unfortunately, I don't have social media. Obviously, if you know me in real life, feel free to message me in real life. I'm close to that 5-minute mark, but still not there. We'll get there someday. But all right. Well, hey, I love you guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.